odd chromosomes, accessory chromosomes, heterochromosomes, idiochromosomes, heterotropic chromosomes, gonochromosomes. Chromosomes X and Y have been called by many names over time, the most misleading of all being the universally accepted sex chromosomes. Chromosomes, in which our genetic information is carried, are passed down from our parents. We inherit 23 chromosomes from our mother and 23 from our father, making a total of 46 chromosomes in every cell of our body. 22 pairs are mainly identical and are known as autosomes. The 23rd pair, known as sex chromosomes, differs between men and women. Men have a mismatched XY pair, while women have an XX pair. When taking a closer look at X and Y chromosomes, it is immediately apparent that Y is significantly smaller than X. Once, it was seen as an insignificant chromosomal fragment, but now we know that it holds a gene crucial for triggering male development. Since this difference in size is not present in any of the autosome pairs, you might be wondering how and why the Y chromosome has become so small. The generally accepted theory of chromosome Y evolution suggests that it was once an identical autosome of the X chromosome. Due to a mutation in a gene on proto-Y, the gene became sex-determining. The recombination process, in which genetic fragments are separated and recombined in order to repair and regenerate chromosomes, had to be suppressed in a large region of the Y chromosome containing the sex-determining gene. This is because otherwise, some of the Y-specific genes could pass on to X and vice versa, which could prove harmful. Since chromosome Y is usually only ever present as a single copy, and it doesn't go through a full recombination process with the X chromosome, many of its genes started to degenerate and were lost over time through a process known as Muller's ratchet. It is expected that through progressive, irreversible degeneration and loss of function of the genes on the Y chromosome, it will eventually disappear. Predicting when exactly this will occur is difficult due to many potential influential factors, but the most recent estimate is in approximately 14 million years. So, in case that we do not bring to our own extinction by then, what will happen in 14 million years? Will humans still exist as two separate sexes, or will we adapt and become one in order to overcome the disappearance of the Y chromosome? In my opening statement, I said that the name for X and Y chromosome was misleading. X and Y have for a long time, and to an extent today, been gendered, X a female and Y a male. This idea is very delusive and was mainly responsible for the XYY supermale theories in 1960s and 70s. The notion that men who have an extra Y chromosome are more aggressively male and therefore more likely to commit violent crimes. Furthermore, although women have a double X chromosome, it is present in both men and women, and in comparison with most autosome pairs, is no more involved in sex-specific characteristics. In fact, when investigating how X chromosomal dosage affects male sexual behavior, both male XXY mice and female XXX mice displayed more masculine behavior. It would be much easier to attempt to comprehend mechanisms of sex determination and development if everything needed for a man to develop was on one chromosome and everything needed for a woman to develop on another. The SRY gene on the Y chromosome was found to be the necessary switch triggering male development. When it was artificially introduced onto a female mouse, due to its presence, the mouse developed into a male. However, the SRY gene is just one of the many factors influencing male sexual development. For instance, genes such as DMRT1 on autosome 9 and FOXL2 on autosome 3 are not found on the sex chromosomes, but are crucial in maintaining the differentiation between testes and ovaries. For this reason, Professor Sarah S. Richardson, in her book Sex Itself, argues that gendering chromosomes distorts our reasoning about genomic structure, function, and evolution. She suggests that geneticists start using more precise and sex-neutral terminology when referring to X and Y. A good start, she says, would be calling them accessory chromosomes or heterochromosomes instead. If men can live just fine with one X chromosome, what does the other X do for women? The answer is not much. You see, the way genes are expressed is through sending a form of instruction for production of specific proteins. Since there is such a large difference in size and number of genes between the X and Y chromosome, men would produce almost half as many proteins compared to women with respect to those two chromosomes. In order to balance their gene activity with men, one of the X chromosomes inactivates at an early stage of development, forming a bar body. This means that approximately in half of the cells in a body of a woman, the X chromosome from the father is inactivated, and in the other half, the X chromosome for the mother. For this reason, women are often referred to as mosaics with respect to any genes present on different alleles on the X chromosome. The way David Bainbridge put it is each woman is one creature and yet two intermingled. Although cell mosaicism is frequent in both men and women due to genetic imprinting patterns, chromosome X inactivation is particularly important when comparing male and female genomes. For instance, since men have only one X chromosome, they are far more susceptible to X-linked recessive diseases, such as red-green colorblindness, spinal muscular atrophy, and hemophilia A and B. If only one diseased allele is present in a woman, the cells with the other X chromosome will usually produce enough of the necessary gene product to outweigh any dysfunction. However, female cell mosaicism is used as one of the explanations for why women suffer from up to 50 times more autoimmune diseases compared to men. It is hypothesized that due to the difference in which the X chromosomes inactivate, two conflicting immune products are produced, increasing the likelihood of women to develop conditions such as systematic lupus, type 1 diabetes, and rheumatoid arthritis. Chromosome Y, the only non-essential chromosome for survival, since women live without it. And yet, what will happen to men once it disappears? We can already see the signs of its degeneration in the decreasing sperm counts around the world. Will the disappearance of the Y chromosome result in extinction of men and ultimately the extinction of humans? Is it possible that the reason for loss of us as a species won't be caused by a disregard for nature or a war, but was within us all along, and we have no power over it? This would be very ironic, but thankfully it is not the case. The answer to this question lies in these little guys, Amami spinnerets. They are among the very few mammals who have lost their Y chromosome and the SRY gene along with it, and yet they still manage to develop into both males and females. Except their males, instead of having the XY chromosomes, just have a single X. How is this possible? Well, as I previously mentioned, the misleadingly named sex chromosomes aren't the only home for the genes involved in sex determination and development. As it turns out, some of the genes responsible for male sexual development moved from the Y chromosome and attached themselves to other chromosomes in the rat's genome. It is also thought that another gene, not from the Y chromosome, overtook the function of the SRY gene as a necessary switch triggering male development. We cannot be certain that this will happen to us as well, but it is expected that as a result to a dramatic increase in male infertility, both men and women will develop new mechanisms for sex determination and development well before the chromosome Y disappears. The end. Not quite. Just like every good story, this one has a plot twist as well. It was revealed that the Y chromosome had an ace up its sleeve. A study showed that the human Y chromosome, in comparison with that of a chimpanzee, our closest living relative, was a lot less degenerated. In fact, it looked as if the gene decay had slowed down. Chromosome Y seems to have developed its own version of the recombination process in order to compensate for the suppressed recombination with the X chromosome. This new process was named gene conversion, and it depends on excessive gene palindrome sequences present in the Y chromosome. Just like word palindromes, such as kayak, madam, or rotor, those are gene sequences which read backwards the sequence next to it, like the one on the screen. If one of those sequences was the adjective redder, for instance, it could fold in half so that the matching letters pair up, which would allow mutated and damaged genes to be repaired to their original form. However, this process has been criticized because there is no evidence that gene conversion is biased towards exchanging damaged genes with intact ones, and could for this reason result in as much damage as repair. I would like you to take one thing away from this presentation: that assumptions based on little evidence and limited understanding, such as the thought that the X chromosome was entirely responsible for development of a woman and the Y chromosome for development of a man, can mislead our understanding and lead us to overlook significant contributing factors. In this case, the fact that human sex development and determination is dependent on more than one chromosome or a combination of two. Thanks to our awareness of this fact, we can safely predict that regardless of whether the Y chromosome disappears or manages to repair itself, human species will most likely adapt through evolution. But that's a story for another day. Thank you.